Have you gotten to the point where you're convinced a Roth conversion is right for your situation in a given tax year, but you don't really know the best practices for how to implement it mechanistically? I had a client ask me this the other day, and I thought it'd be a good video. So I'm going to give you 3 best practices to look out for as you implement a Roth conversion throughout the year. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew. I'm a CFA charter holder and a CFP professional. I'm also the owner of Lever Wealth Management, and I've helped ultra high net worth and high net worth investors for several years with their complex financial lives. And what I do with these videos is I take those learnings and I distill them down and give them to you so that you can apply them to your own situation. I had a client recently ask me, Andrew, I'm convinced I need to do a Roth conversion for various reasons. And we went through everything, and it does make sense in their situation. Up through the 24% tax bracket, and it's going to be roughly $300,000 this year that they're converting, give or take. And they said, how do I actually implement this? Right? And it's such a great question because there's a textbook answer, which I'll give you. And then I think there are a couple practical answers and 3 important best practices. So the textbook answer is you do your Roth conversion at the beginning of the year because the equity markets are up more than they are down. 3 years out of it 4, equity markets are going to be up. So if you convert early in the year, you're going to get that growth in the Roth rather than allowing the pre-tax balance to grow and then converting at the end of the year. Textbook answer. Generally, I don't do that. Generally speaking, because of a few different reasons, and this is best practice number 1. Most clients don't actually know with high degrees of certainty their tax situation until 3rd or 4th quarter. And so what we're doing is we're locking in some amount of taxable income, and you may not know what your dividends and interest are, or what your capital gain pass-throughs are, or what your capital gains are, right? Things just happen and you go, oh, I want to take the family on that vacation. You liquidate $50,000 of stock. Well, now we've increased AGI and we've done the Roth conversion on top of it. So generally, I think waiting till 3rd or 4th quarter to do the majority of it can make a lot of sense depending on the situation. Number 2, I don't want to do it all at once, all else equal. If it's small, and when I say small, I'm talking a conversion in the 25 to 50,000 range. You can get away with doing it all at once. It's not that big of a deal. But if you're transferring shares especially, you can have, it's not unrealistic to have a 2 to 3% swing intraday within the market, right? And so if you're doing an in-kind transfer of shares from your IRA to your Roth, which again is just a way of saying I'm not selling them, putting them in cash, and then rebuying them, which you can do, just adds a couple steps. If you say 2% movement on $300,000, that's $6,000, right? 3% movement, you're getting close to $10,000, and we're trying to plan for these tax brackets and not going over marginal rates within a couple thousand. So you can play that game a couple ways. My preference is you transfer the shares in kind and you still give yourself a $5,000 to $7,000 buffer in any given tax bracket. But another way to mitigate, and I would call this best practice number 2, another way to mitigate the issue of the share transfer over time and just market movement is you dollar cost average it. Just the way you would dollar cost average an investment in the market to reduce market risk, dollar cost average your Roth conversion to reduce market risk. It gives you smaller denominations so that you are not having to deal with as much of movement in equity prices. And if there's a downturn, you get to take advantage of it. And on the back end, you can know with a pretty high level of certainty what your actual conversion amount will be. So best practice number 1 is generally don't do all of the conversion at the beginning of the year, maybe a portion thereof, but not all of it. Best practice number 2 is the larger the conversion, the more reason to dollar cost average it over time. Best practice number 3 is convert according to your market assumptions. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you a personal view, and this is just Andrew's view. I'm not giving you investment advice. Forward earnings multiples on the S&P are 23 right now. If it's January 1st and multiples the same, I'm less inclined to convert on January 1st than I would be if multiples are 13 or 14 on the S&P 500, all else equal. Because the probabilities are in your favor, the lower the multiple, the higher the potential return. So when you've had multiple expansion like we've had and such high returns, it makes less sense to do the conversion early in the year as well. That being said, if you have a particular view, and I've done this with other clients before where they say, hey, I have a very specific view on, international small cap stocks. Okay, let's do that conversion early in the year because it aligns with our market assumptions. It aligns with our convictions of what we think will give us the most return over a long period of time or within a year. And again, none of these are earth-shattering, but you can pick up a few efficiencies each year by doing it this way. And at minimum, you avoid some annoyances. And I'll give you a bonus one, number 4. If you do conversions earlier in the year, this is another reason to do them later, but if you do conversions earlier in the year, for the love of God, do your quarterly estimates for your state and federal. You don't want underpayment penalties. The larger your conversion, you need to start doing your quarterly estimates from the time that happens. So if you do it in December, January 15th estimate, you need to be doing that. I'm not a CPA, but I have seen people who converted early in the year, didn't pay in anything, paid it in April, they had underpayment penalties. Another reason I prefer not to do it early in the year. You get to keep your money a little bit longer. So I thought it was a really fair question by my client, and it just got me thinking, you know what, this might be something that you all find helpful as well. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but understanding that while the textbook answer is you do it at the beginning of the year, if you can hold on to your tax money a little bit longer, and if you can understand your tax situation a little bit better, maybe doing the majority in the 4th quarter, it's a larger conversion, dollar cost averaging that quarter, possibly even some in the beginning of the year, and the remainder dollar cost averaged over 2 to 4 times, depending on the denomination. And then number 3, making sure that what you convert and when you convert it is aligned with your convictions and market assumptions long term. Hope that's helpful. Until next time, see y'all.